Since yesterday, the clamor for the concrete results of dialogue has always been a perennial issue, beginning with Excellency, Professor Osman had mentioned this several times. His Excellency Ambassador Sinjari already had mentioned of the necessity of a reformed education as part of, on our part as an academy. So, as one of the best examples to make this dialogue a concrete one, and I hope my presentation would serve that purpose. Just a caveat. I am not a theologian nor a social scientist, but I'm coming from a philosophical perspective. So I beg your indulgence if I'll be using the terms which are beyond my expertise. Also, my topic, as you noticed, is so particular, so specific that even as early as yesterday, some colleagues are asking for a clarification of this one. So there's not much option left to me but to give some context. I hope Mr. Moderator will be giving me a leniency on the time, at least a couple of minutes extension. So I begin. Two parts, only two parts. First is the landscape or the context of Quiapo popular devotion, and the next is my philosophical interpretation to that, which I'll go into details later. So the landscape, there's not much actually more specific than I asked the help of Google here, so Google Maps. So if this is Bucharest, we travel to the south, farther south, to the east, and there you go, Philippines. And at the heart of that is Manila, and at the heart of Manila is the Quiapo Church. And the Quiapo Church right now looks like this. This is the locus of my study. Very, very quickly also, to give you the history, 85 years after the first Spaniards have stepped onto the shore, Philippine Islands, in 1600s, the Augustinian friars had commissioned sculpture in Mexico to have this life-size wooden image of the suffering Christ, the Nazarene. On way to Manila, from Acapulco to Manila, 1606, the legend says that the ship caught on fire and the statue got burnt, but it survived, thus the name Black Nazarene. In May 1606, it landed the Philippines and put in a small church in Intramuros. And in January 9, 1787, it was transferred to Basilica of Nazarene in Quiapo this time. Thus, the translation, the passage, and that will be the focus. 1940, and the recent history, we have wars, it survived wars, and even 3 great earthquakes, and of course uprisings, even before the colonial time. Thus, it becomes now some kind of symbol of Filipino faith. So in the span of 10 years, you will see here a 4,000% of increase of participants. This is only based on the available resources. Those beyond were not able to retrieve. Just to give you what I'm talking about, very, very quickly, this is how they look like. As a result, based on the demographs, there already have been 11 deaths in the span of 2004 to 2016. And there are 8,000 more than injuries because of this practice of faith. Now, these are just some of those comments of the foreign media documenting the phenomenon. Religious frenzy is the common thing. Excessive fanaticism. This time, it's the church people, the Catholic Church officials are now describing the phenomenon. You don't understand. Now, at present, there are many explanations talking about that. I only gave you one, and that would be the historical. But in the paper, these are all covered in in just short passing. Now, I'm asking, what could be the philosophical explanation to this? Anthropologists, theologists have explained these things, but so far philosophy, at least in our country, haven't touched this one, and this is where I'm coming from. So the main aim of the paper is to philosophically understand the religious experience of this phenomenon going on. in Quiapo every January 9. In the hope that to establish a concrete dialogue between the social classes, elite and the marginalized, educators and the hoi polloi in church theology and that of popular religiosity. I invoke here the works of Soren Kierkegaard, a Danish existentialist philosopher, Fear and Trembling, and concluded in Scientific Postscript for its excessive discussion on faith, which contends that the meaning of life can be achieved in one's professing of one's faith. And this one is some kind of controversial, which I often meet because the method is really radical in the sense that I myself have joined it to experience really the first-hand experience, to have a first-hand information of what's going on. So I tend to have anthropological and phenomenological, but I'm not an anthropologist. That's why I ask the help of those professionals. Anyhow, let me now go into the details. Out of 33 cases, I chose only 3 for this occasion. The first case is that of Liza, who don't want to mention her surname. A first-time devotee and a 28-year-old housewife, she collapsed during her attempt to touch the image. Upon waking up, she was advised by she woke up at the hospital. So the physician asked her to go home, but in contrary, she returned and touched the carrozza for the second time. Her request is to have a child with a common law partner she is with for 3 years already. When I was asking, what drives you, and these are the things that she talked about. I hope you can just follow because I really have to make this one fast. The idea is there is subjectivity and inward nuances in her testimonies. By the way, last January 26, I was notified that she gave birth to a healthy young girl named Aryan. The next one is that of Boy Maranan. Apolinario Maranan, a 74-year-old and a 54-year devotee. He is the head of those brave men trying to protect the image, the fragile image. They are called the Hijos del Nuestro Padre Jesus Nazareno. According to his story, one afternoon during his early years at the Quiapo church, he and his friend were playing when he saw the agonizing face, the image, the agonizing face of the statue transformed into a smiling bright face. He rejected all media invitation for exclusive interview to keep this secret and asked me to do the same. And now I'm telling to the whole world. So let's keep it a secret. And this is what he mentioned when I asked him, what happened to you in the earlier days? Is it a miracle? And this is his response. For me, there's no miracle. Inside you, there's no certainty. Your belief might be different from others, but it leads to one, and that is faith. Let me go to the third case. The third case is another Hijos who guards the image. Raymond Gapi is an architect based in Jubail, Saudi Arabia. For 10 years already. Every year he comes home just to attend the translation. So imagine how many miles he's traveling just to have that one. Just how strong his devotion is. He is important, interesting story because right here is Renato Burion who died last 2015. And he was the one who brought the almost lifeless body, but eventually died, to the hospital. I asked during the interview, are you going to push through with your devotion still? As expected, this is his reply. To me, it's personal. Whatever happens, I could die. It's all part of the devotion, and no one can stop me. So we can get from their testimonies these ideas of uncertainty, trusting the uncertainty, subjectivity, and dispassionate that is coming from within. Another thing that we can get there is their intentions, which accordingly there are two. It based from a wish. My devotion is from a wish. And another reason why they do that is, I would like to thank the wish, the request that have been granted to me. And they promise to keep that devotion until the end of their lives. Let me now go to the part 2. The leap of faith, which is the most common, I guess the most common phrase associated with Soren Kierkegaard, is actually a rough interpretation of the term faith by virtue of the absurd. This is originally where it's taken from. Leap of faith, you can never find it in the works of Soren Kierkegaard. Now, this definition of faith found in concluding and scientific postscript is very much important, I guess, I believe, because it involves two important elements: subjectivity and the passion of inwardness. Now, these things are ringing a bell to you because on the Soren Kierkegaard's faith, we have these two. In the Panata of the Devotions, we have these two elements also. My next point of contention is that of the double movement of faith. In Fear and Trembling, we see this Abraham submitting himself to the absurd command of God of killing one's own child. This shall, you see, you can never see any rational justification, at least during his time. That's why Soren Kierkegaard have this notion of teleological suspension of the ethical. We have to suspend all the rational explanation, and the only thing you have to do is to lift your faith into that because something you don't observe. My contention is right here. The double movement of faith is once you submit yourself unconditionally, irrationally, then something is returned to you by God. And my point is, this could be the miracle. What am I saying? This is not the documentary evidence. In the definition of faith, it says there, repulsion of the absurd. This is where I'm coming from. God is repelling something back to the one who has genuine faith. And what is it? My theory is that it's a miracle. In the case of Abraham, he gains back his plenitude. He had Isaac, he fathered all nations, and so on and so forth. So I guess the double movement of faith results to miracle. Now, Soren Kierkegaard got the same when he talked about miracle, which can happen in our days. He mentioned this one, he completed in scientific posture still. He says that our generation does not stop with the miracle of faith, turning water into wine. It goes further and turning wine into water. Now let me go to the second to the last portion. The devotion of wish and the gratitude as a double movement of faith. I am now interpreting the Panata with Kierkegaard. Last January 9, 2015, Translacion becomes the most significant moment in the life of a 15-year devotee, Erlinda Dizon. That's actually her. Her yearly Panata is intended for a 39-year-old son named Alexander, who suffers difficulty in speaking and chronic memory loss. In July 11, 2014, Alexander got lost while having a lunch in a fast food nearby city. After 6 months of failed search, Erlinda joins the annual Translacion, but this time with a very special intention. That is to find her everything. Her everything is Alexander. As the snail space procession heading towards the corner of Burgos Street and Ross Boulevard, Manila, the one I showed you in the video clip, she witnessed a man being trodden and trampled upon by the nearing sea of devotees. Out of pity, she pulled the man to safety, just in time away from the approaching jostling crowd. Although bald, darkened, toothless, stiffer in physique, she was certain that the scar on the leg of the man belongs to Alexander. Erlinda found her long-lost son amidst the sea of devotees on the feast of the Black Nazarene, which happens to be her 67th birthday. This account belongs to a multitude of many personal claims of miracles by the devotees. Through faith by virtue of the absurd, Erlinda surrenders all her weakened and aged body into the den of collective frenzy and masculine strength. I'll skip this one. What I'm simply saying here is, this is somehow, we can see an interpretation of the double movement of faith, what Kierkegaard is telling us. The double movement of faith in this context is a devotion, is the metamorphosis of a wish towards the devotion of gratitude. The first phase is the devotee sees no fear before the dangerous ritual in the ardent belief that his or her belief shall be granted by the Nazarene. It is at this instance, non-devotees find the devotion idolatrous, irrational, fanatic, and superstitious. The second phase, no need for me to explain, is when he received his son. Let me go to the conclusion. So this is the second argument I was presenting. Sorry for being so... there are many details I really would like to show you, but perhaps during the question and answer. Now, there are several things that we can conclude from this study. First is that the devotion itself involves categorical elements of faith, namely inwardness, subjectivity, and that of passionate. The transition from the sacred vow, from personal wish to perpetual gratitude, is the concrete manifestation, I believe, as the double movement of faith according to Piety 4. What is received during the repulsion of the absurd is the existential meaning. Although subjectively true to the individual, this is objectively untenable to those who are observing. For the devotees, existential meaning is when you experience this quote-unquote miracles, which according to them is everything. Therefore, Quiapo popular devotion can now be viewed in a philosophical lens on top of the social social perspectives that is now presently existing, at least in my hometown. This is the most important slide, I guess. I know that there are limitations, yes. The existential faith of Piety 4 may not account the 12 million, by the way, the last count that participated was 12 million last January. The 12 million in religious experiences of those. More so, the miracles they claim. I am not claiming they are all true. Another is, this may not provide a cogent and intelligent way of avoiding religious extremism and fundamentalism. I accept that. That's a limitation. However, a close reading of the text and a careful monitoring of watching of the gesture of those devotees would say it contributes to the prevailing theories presented by the social scientists and religious experts. It will serve a meaning-seeking opportunity and inspiration to pursue life among the common folks amidst the onslaught of the modern day living. You know, the economy of the Philippines, coming from a third world country, and it gives them hope. A significant voice. This will also serve as a significant voice of the masses whose ways are not always amiable to the lens of the opulent and the educated few. This will also serve as invitation among theologians and religious experts to further explore this kind of spirituality in order to develop a more effective means to understand indigenous culture towards the missionary aims of their faith. And lastly, if I'm correct, and I know it's presumptuous, if this is possible, this could have changed the history of religious adventurism that continues to create fear and trembling towards the dialogue between world religions and culture of our present age. Thank you for patiently listening.